gently on the edges of the open space. There would be broken bones and damaged camera equipment, and probably some deaths, and later many lawsuits and insurance claims and scandals uncovered by the news organizations, but for the moment the traffic could move again, which pleased William. "Now we're late," Kenneth observed. "We'll be fine." William touched an icon on the dash, and the car did his favorite trick, apart from killing people, filling the windscreen with a head-up display which showed a GPS map of the surrounding streets, directions to their destination, and the location of anything the vehicle's expert system judged to be a possible threat. A green carpet seemed to appear before them, stretching away into the distance, curving around the obelisk in the center of the place, and fading out of sight. William depressed the car's accelerator, and it moved smoothly forward with the stream of traffic, passing police vehicles and straggling protesters alike. The early part of their route had been something of a bone of contention. Kenneth had maintained that it would have been preferable to head directly north from the flat in the 8th and pick up the ring road. William had pooh-poohed that idea, saying it added miles to their journey and that it would be best to head almost directly south towards Savigny. In the end, the thing which decided the matter was the fact that William was the only one of them who could drive and could, basically, do whatever he wanted once he was behind the wheel of l'Aurage. Once they were out of the traffic in the center of town, William set the car into cruise mode, and the note of the engine dropped to an almost subliminal vibration that pushed them gently back into the upholstery. Beyond the windscreen, the green carpet unrolled before them. Kenneth looked at his watch, and from the back seat Amanda said, "We can always take another train." He shook his head. Travel on the line was not like any other kind of rail travel. One did not, for example, normally have to take out temporary citizenship in the company which ran the Channel Tunnel rail route. If they missed this train, they might not be able to travel again until the spring, and he couldn't put her through all this again. He glanced across at William, who nodded at the little numbers at the bottom of the windscreen to indicate that they were already at the speed limit for this road. The French had a particularly bloody-minded band of traffic policemen, known as GEP, after their black and yellow ballistic armor, who rode ferocious 3,000cc BMW motorcycles and carried assault rifles. Nobody in their right mind wanted to tangle with them. Kenneth shrugged. The line itself didn't pass anywhere near Paris. The amount of demolition needed to accommodate it would have been ruinous. Its track gauge was unlike any other in Europe, to prevent other rail companies using it, but this also meant that everywhere the line wanted to go, dedicated track had to be laid. It couldn't share the rail infrastructure of the nations and polities and duchies and sanjaks and earldoms and principalities and communes it passed through. In the case of Paris, a long consultation period had accompanied the negotiations for a line embassy. There had been protests and riots and sit-ins wherever the government proposed granting a site, and in the end, Savigny-sur-Orge had been chosen simply because the level of civil unrest had been slightly lower there than elsewhere. There was a general feeling in France that Savigny had wound up with the country's line embassy because the Savignians had just not tried quite hard enough. France was an unusual proposition for the line. Everywhere else it passed, cities and polities clamored for branch lines and consulates and embassies. There was a certain unfounded cachet in having a connection with the line. But in France there was, on the whole, very little welcome, and the line company had found itself having to deal with militant architects, conservationists, eco-terrorists, political terrorists of many stripes, politicians, heavily armed farmers, the French Army and Air Force, and hundreds of thousands of annoyed property owners. The line solved the problem the way it solved all the problems it encountered during its decades-long plod across the continent. It just kept going, and eventually the opposition gave up. The line stitched its way from one side of France to the other, and in time a branch curled away towards what, in a gesture of capitulation,